Hey, fired up footballers. I think we got it.
Fired up footballers. We are live.
You might not be able to.
Hold on.
You might not be able to see us.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Shit.
Taki mushrooms.
Come on,
little one. Come on, Lee. We won.
Yeah. I think we're going. I just don't think they can see us.
Mute microphone. No.
We don't want to be muted. Turn camera off.
Turn camera off. Let's see if that does anything. And we're broadcasting. Possibly live. Fired up footballers. We can't see your comments.
What?
Let's see what's going on here.
Possibly live.
Oh, we are live. Okay.
Yeah, you're live.
Okay.
All right, Moot.
All right,
welcome to the show. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Everybody. YouTube just threw a hurdle at us that's saying that you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers to be able to live stream from your mobile device. So our normal way of filming is a little. Oh, we're on here now. It's a little different now. And now you guys can't see us at the moment. We'll figure this out at another time. But we have Moot with us here to talk about the Toronto and Chicago match. And all of the other crazy business with potential rebranding, Soldier Field in the future, and all the other stuff along with it. So thanks for joining us, Moot. What's going on?
Not much, guys. Just nursing a night off last night, but thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on. I've always thought that we've always needed a good fan podcast for the Fire, and I'm pumped to be part of one with you guys today.
All right, and we definitely got some stuff to talk about. So this is going to be a good one. I guess we'll get right into the game that happened yesterday, the away match against TFC. Matt, we'll just go right into it. Your thoughts on the match, how it started, and things like that.
Yeah, well, it certainly did not start well at all. That was one of the worst halves I think the Fire played in quite some time, with the exception of the first half against Seattle. The second half, completely different story. Love to see everyone come together, really get momentum going from that goal, from CJ's goal at the end of the first half. But Toronto's a good team to go to that stadium and get a point on the road. Is something very impressive. So I think it's the first time the Fire had won there since like 2015 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they go on the road, get a point there against a very good Toronto FC team. Take this momentum into Friday's game against Vancouver. I'm pretty happy about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to take 4 points off of New York Red Bull and Toronto, that's pretty good.
Well, and before those two matches, we're saying, like, if we lost those last two matches, people are talking about Pono potentially being sacked. And to get 4 points against these two, quality opponents, it's a step in the right direction. And, we haven't talked too much about the game yet. We're still just talking about the general result. But even though it was a draw, I'm not trying to be negative here. It's still they were lucky to draw. I mean, man, I think you got the stats in front of you. What do they have? They had like 25% possession the whole match, correct?
Yes. Let me pull it up right now.
That's a lot of chasing.
It's like 29% possession, which is honestly awful. So, come on, man. There we go. All right. So the Fire had 29% possession, 7 shots, 3 on target. They committed 14 fouls. Toronto had 5. Honestly, Toronto had so many opportunities to win this game. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
They had more shots on target than we did on goal, than we did altogether. They committed less than half the fouls that we did. They had 5 corner kicks. I mean, just so many opportunities for them to really take advantage of mistakes the Fire are making, but nothing there for them. But we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about us. And the fact that the Fire still get a point off of something like that is something to be positive about. But you have to. The concern here is the lack of possession, the lack of shots that they had compared to their opponent. And that's not something you want to bring into games in the future here.
No, and you definitely wonder if there's a little bit of luck involved here. I mean, I'm coaching my own team right now, and I always say, hey, girls, first 15, 20 minutes, when you have the momentum, you got to put the game away and make it easier for you. Toronto didn't do that. And sometimes you take one shot and you score, and that's kind of what happened with the Fire with CJ Sapong, who's been amazing, by the way. What a snag he has been.
Definitely our signing of the offseason for sure.
And Nico got a goal today. I know we'll talk about that later, but the Fire got lucky. I know we're supposed to be talking about the game a little bit, but just looking.
This is like our initial thoughts.
Just looking forward.
Sure.
I'm concerned. I mean, because again, we just used the word luck, and they're lucky to get a point from this match. And I believe it was 29% possession. The passing success rates for most of the lads were not very good. So it's just kind of concerning. You can see the writing on the wall. You know, it's unsustainable to be playing like this and try to get 3 points, 1 point. There's some good players there, but the back line is like, it's been the story of the season is in shambles. And then we have a coach that, you really don't understand what tactics he's trying to run. So those two things right there, just Pano's tactics, lack of tactics, and that back line, it's just it just really seems like the season's still going to be a slog. Even though it's positive, we got 4 points out of these last two matches. It's just, again, I just think it's unsustainable.
By the way, smash that like button for us. Subscribe and like for more Spitting Fire YT. Support your local podcast. Support Fred Huebner, who's always talking about Chicago Fire on the radio, just saying, call into the Fire, just saying all these guys, if you're listening to us, call in, talk about the Fire, recommend podcasts to your friends, and get people talking about the Fire. How else are we going to spread the Fire? And we'll get into more about rebranding and potential, all that kind of stuff later, but just want to get that out of the way. And I think that there's signs of both. There's good signs and bad signs. They got 4 points from two of the better teams in MLS.
Yeah.
But they also, how they went about it was egregiously ugly. Was not good looking soccer, and does not look like it bodes well long term.
Yeah, long term you can't be playing like this at all. If the Fire are going to do this against teams like, I don't know, I can't even think.
I mean, any good team.
Atlanta's not playing well this year either. But think of like some of the other teams in MLS they're gonna capitalize on these mistakes. And the funny thing is, the Fire could have honestly taken a 3-1 lead. I forgot who had a chip over the bar. It was very, very close. I believe it was like the 70th minute or so, right before Toronto scored their goal. I believe it was actually the possession right before. And unfortunately, just wider than that. But the fact that the Fire can have that little possession but convert on their chances is definitely a positive. But you definitely want to see them put more shots on target, really kind of control the game, and get control. Just control the other team. It's just that's essentially where I'm looking at.
This is a great comment right here. Nelson / Pano seem to get the best available, I'm assuming, player and try to shoehorn them into a team. They need to decide their style, then get their players that's fit, not the best available. Yes. I was on a few weeks ago, and I said, where's the email from Pano to Nelson that says striker, big, strong, fast, the traits they're looking for, the acumen he's looking for, the style of play. It takes one email. Hey, my wingers, I want strong, pacey wingers that can go up.
Well, how about a center back that's over 6 foot? And that was what really got taken advantage of by Josie Altidore over this past game. Yes. And I want to get into it. Let's kind of start with maybe we go into the game a little bit here and talk about that first quarter, that first 25. So the Fire just looked overran, looked underwater for that first 20 seconds in. Mavica goes down, gets knocked down by Sapong, and was down for a little concerning, but he got back up. But Sapong, just beast mode from the start. He's been amazing. There was a chance from a set piece, first 5 minutes. Toronto are just controlling. I got 10 minutes in, 2 half chances from Toronto. Really not much from the Fire. And then Katai, he was showing pops all day. He was looking really good. Definitely was one of our better counter-attacking guys coming out.
But that really was it. It was just like
it was good to see him kind of go back to his form from last year. I was watching some highlights from a couple of games last year on Friday night with my buddy Steve. And one of the things that we noticed was how well Katai was on those counterattacks. And you definitely saw a little bit of that yesterday.
And that's kind of all we had last year. And then he kind of, I don't know if he was just shouldering the load and he kind of just fell off.
Well, he was playing for a long time.
And other teams can just key in on that. And really, that's all you saw yesterday was the Katai counter.
Well, no Frankowski.
No Frankowski. So, again, it's just that first 10, 15 minutes. I mean, what do you really expect? I mean, they're away. Toronto is going to have the momentum, right, just naturally being at home. And fortunately for us, they couldn't put one in away in the first 15 minutes.
Speaking of Frankowski, did you have an update on Frankowski? I saw something from
So I was told he was getting an MRI. I didn't. Yeah, he's out for 6 weeks. Yeah. Marty confirmed on Twitter that he will be out for 6 weeks. I mean, I believe that's true.
That
doubt about that. It really sucks, but you know.
And no Raheem too.
Yeah, he's out for a while. I mean, the Fire definitely plagued with injuries right now. You know, it's going to take some of these bench guys to step up, and I think they will. You know, some of our more younger players that we got. But yeah, that is true. That he got an MRI yesterday. I actually found that out during the game. He is going to be out for 6 weeks, according to Marty. I have no reason to doubt Marty. He's usually pretty good with his sources. And I just think that's what we're looking at here. He's out for 6 weeks, and hopefully he comes back strong, because he really hasn't been the player that we wanted him to be when he signed initially. Playing for the Polish national team and everything. I think that he needs to really step it up after he gets back from this injury, and really just kind of take control and be the player that they signed him for.
And we'll see how Gaetan, as he gets integrated more.
Yeah.
Once he gets integrated more and Frankowski's back. We'll see what that looks like with Katai up there.
So 13 minutes in, I got Fire chance. Katai to Dax chip. Maybe that was the chip you were talking about.
That was later.
Oh, that was later? But
that was later.
Okay, so that's later. But Katai to Dax chip. Half chance created. Looking for that back post run from Sapong, but the goalie got it. Pozuelo started to drop deeper to escape the pest that is Mo. But 14 minutes, Mo shuts him down anyway. Mo just kept shutting down Pozuelo almost all game. Pozuelo did end up with an assist at some point, but really Mo was knocking him off this game most of the game, I thought. What did you guys think?
Yeah, Mo Adams really stepping it up. They were initially going to send him out on loan to Lansing, I believe it was, or Memphis, one of the two. We've sent so many of our players out to the USL. Hard to keep track of it now.
Yeah.
But, good to see Mo really stepping up, really earning his spot. I'm really excited to see what he can do, stepping up with all these injuries that we're having, and being, just solid force out back. I don't know what you guys
My thing with Mo is it's kind of confusing. Playing Mo and Dax is confusing to me, just because when it comes up to the buildup of play and possession out of the back, and let me back up. Building out of the back and possession. When you guys have Dax and Mo, not to talk bad about their offensive skills. Mo has improved, but think about what's with our possession stats, 29%. So there's a reason that we're struggling. And I like Dax, I like Mo, but when you have two defensive-minded players, it's just not going to help that build up in the possession that we want to see from the Fire.
I thought that maybe Georgie might be a better shot back there. And actually, I don't know what Georgie did too much yesterday in the game. He wasn't super. He had actually, maybe besides Sapong, he had some chances. He created some good crosses and some good passes. But I think that Paunovic is not putting Georgie right now in the position maybe he needs to be in to succeed, and maybe to help this.
But Georgie, really, I don't know if he's going to be the guy, like that top U.S. guy that everyone's expecting to be like a DeMarcus Beasley or something like that.
And not as a number 10. I think he's got to be in that number 8, and you throw, and that's where Dax comes out, and you leave Mo in. Dax.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, I like the guy, but I don't know how you feel about this, Matt. But I wonder if you start seeing Dax minutes start diminishing. I mean, what is I just don't really see what
Dax
don't
played
see
well
it.
yesterday. I thought he played well against Red Bull too. I think the first 2 games were not great at all. He was very bad, but Dax is getting up there. His fitness is probably isn't what it was a couple of years ago. Obviously, when he was a star with Red Bull. But, I still think he's got the fight in him that a lot of players don't. He's definitely a great leader out there. That incident where Katai got involved with that little scruff with Josie, I forgot what minute it was.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down. That I got it all. I watched it all happen, but go on.
Yeah, but, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the only guy that jumped in there in the Fire to help him out was Dax.
Yeah.
And, that's good to see as a leader on that team, as a guy who's going to step in and stick up for his teammates. And that's something that you really can't buy in a transfer window.
Yes, totally agree. And that's why it's hard to take Dax out.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, it just goes back to that comment that a fan made earlier. It just seems like, the opportunity comes to acquire a player like Dax or Juninho, and again, or Mo Adams, and they're very similar in their play style, and then you just just jam them into the lineup, and it's just weird, and it's just muddled in the tactics, and that's why it just doesn't look right.
All right, we'll break up again. 15 minutes. Fire get their first extended possession. They're passing, looking like they're expecting their fellow guys to do something different than they're going to do. They're kind of shouting at each other, but it was their first time that they really had the ball. They looked confused, but a little clunky. Goes back to Toronto, and then I wrote here 20 minutes in, it's 75% possession to Toronto to 25% possession to Chicago, and that would bear out for the rest of the match. Mm-hmm. And that's 20 minutes in.
That's a lot of chasing.
It really kind of set the tone for what we'd see later in the game. But first 20 minutes on the Fire, not great. Not really, nothing really. I don't know. Just like not a lot going on in my opinion.
It's just more the good is more individual efforts. Like we brought up Katai. Again, it's just Katai, just playing some hero ball.
Mo shutting
down. And that's what we saw in 2017. It was just individual talent stepping up and not necessarily a system or a set of tactics.
I'll get into the Lararia headbutt. It was all taken out of hand. Anyway, but I got it all. I watched it pretty closely, so I'll break it down for everybody. Toronto possessing deep in the Fire zone, and they were possessing deep in the Fire zone all game. There was essentially a 20 by 20 yard box in the Fire's final third on the right flank, specifically where Gutjar was. That he was basically, they were letting crosses and anything you wanted to do as a Toronto player, you could do on that right side. They were having crosses. They were dribbling. Josie was taking on Gutjar. Every single player almost was taking on Gutjar on the dribble on that right flank. Not to pile it on Gutjar, who I thought had a great pass and had some decent passing, but defensively he was left out on an island to the point where it was a huge, and the heat map shows it, that they just started focusing all their attack trying to go on that right side and getting those crosses into Josie. And then paired with Marcelo and Johan, who are struggling with going against those a Josie type striker.
Mm-hmm. Hence the goal.
It was chance-a-palooza.
And add when Schweinsteiger, when he plays in the back,
mm-hmm.
we sit so far deep in our own half. Because Schweinsteiger wants the ball, we try to build out of the back. So that's when you see people start complaining about Marcelo's passing percentage, Gutjar's, Kappelhoff's. Going forward, they're not very good. And every time, I know people want to see, some people want to see Schweinsteiger back there, but that's why I don't want to see Bastian back there, because our possession, our field position just drops and becomes so deep and so stagnant that we can't really build. You saw people pick on Gutjar, and when you sit, especially with the Chicago Fire, when they sit in front of their own goal,
mm-hmm.
The other teams are saying thank you. They are fine with that, because then they can push.
They
can push their lineup high, pin them in, and wait for Schweinsteiger, Marcelo, Gutjar, or anyone, Mo or Dax, to make a mistake, and then they can counter and score. So,
great points.
I just don't really like the Schweinsteiger at center back thing still, but that's just.
The problem with the lack of depth that we do have at those positions, nothing's going to be perfect. Honestly, a lot of MLS teams have to face this problem too.
Yeah.
I mean, not even MLS. When you look all around the world, I'm a big Liverpool fan. They had to deal with this a couple of years ago too. But now, obviously with Virgil van Dijk, they got their guy, but there's only so many Virgil van Dijks out there. In fact, there's only one of them.
We were saying,
was it Martin Skirtle and Dejan Lovren days? Is that what you're referring to?
We were saying that we're Man U guys, and we were saying that Man U have to go get Maguire 2 seasons ago. We were saying this,
yeah. It's just the center back and outside back. The lack of resources that have went into those positions, it doesn't make any sense. It's like Nelson wants to throw numbers up top and forward, but that's not how you build a true team. That's not how you build a winner.
Right, absolutely. I don't know. If they're going to develop some sort of, they're going to do something. One of these guys is just going to have to stop and be like, I'll be our center back. They just work their butt off. Just become the player that they need to be for that position. And it's just going to take a leader to step up and do that.
That's Basti, right?
Yeah, but Basti's he's done at the end of the year. I mean, I'm talking like long term.
Yeah, and Basti is done. We'll get into that. We'll talk about that later because I know you've got some ideas or at least some things about that. But I saw that Marty tweeted that Basti's a top 10 center back in this league. Do you guys agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I don't think MLS has a lot of good center backs in it. Not a lot of good defenders in MLS.
So it's a short list.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a good defender, you're going to go abroad. And you see how much teams are willing to pay for a good defender. Liverpool breaking that transfer fee with Van Dijk, spending all that money on him. It takes money to get a good defender, and then MLS teams aren't going to spend big money on defenders. They're going to just try to throw some guys back there, and that's why the league is where it is right now. In my opinion, what's the gap? Sorry, the Cubs are playing. Anyway, MLS isn't going to spend big money on defensive players.
No,
they want to get star players who are going to be up top, who have a big name for themselves, and who are going to sell tickets and jerseys. That's just essentially where MLS is at right now. And I really can't think of anyone. I mean, I really can't think of any.
This is a great comment. Is top 10 center back versus top 4 center mid.
Well, is Basti a top 10 center mid in MLS or top 10 center back?
I don't think he's top 4 center mid. I definitely think he's top 4 center back.
Well, my thoughts on him being a center back, because he does check a lot of the boxes. But one of the most important traits of a true center back is just being that physical brute and just winning balls. But you saw him struggle against someone like Josie, and so he's
Josie's big.
But I thought supposed to be.
Yeah, I think I would give Basti a B yesterday.
Well.
I gave him a B yesterday.
I think Cap that got burned from Josie.
Cap and Marcelo were getting burned a lot. Yeah. Basti got burned maybe once or twice, but he also did some burning himself. I really thought Basti held his own yesterday. He was definitely maybe the best Fire center back.
Yeah, very well so. Where are we at in the game?
We're for the first 25 minutes. Fire were very poor. Not much from the Fire. Let's move on real quick. Toronto holding the ball. Mo just keeps shut. Yeah, let's get to the half. Mo shuts down Pozuelo. Fire are starting to sluggishly defend. Toronto getting deep in their zone and just starting to fire crosses off from the right side specifically, which is where Guchar was. There it is. 30 minutes. Pozuelo cross from outside the box, gets it off pretty quick. Josie beats everyone to the Fire back post. By the way, I got to say, Osted had a pretty great game, though.
He's been good.
Yeah, great addition to his team.
This goal was not on Osted. It was more so on Kappelhoff and Marcelo, losing track of Altidore, who just nodded it in.
I mean, any sport you got to look at, a goalkeeper. I mean, you look at hockey too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, Blackhawks fans, put blame on Corey Crawford every time he gives up a goal. That's not necessarily his fault. When your defenders leave you hanging out to dry, of course you're going to let up a goal when it's 2-on-1 and it's 1-on-1. The chances for the offensive player are so high, especially soccer. That's why penalty kicks are so strong. Mm-hmm. Those chances are so high, and that's essentially what we're looking at here with that goal yesterday. Kappelhoff leaving Austin hung out to dry. There's only so much a goalkeeper can do when he's all by himself.
Georgie gets another great ball to CJ. CJ heads it across goal and fizzles into it a corner. Toronto Bono is doing okay.
And then what? We can fast forward here. Then we got
Klopas saying the Fire just looks static. Recipe for disaster. Fire are absorbing a lot from pressure from Toronto.
And that's what happens when Schweinsteiger plays at center back. That's what we said. They just sit, and it's
okay.
Easy.
Thank you. Katai has been dangerous in transition. Hasn't gotten the ball very much. Klopas saying that Toronto could be doing a lot more if they're going outside more often. Katai on the break again, creates a half chance, forcing Mavinga into a risky play. Katai had a good game yesterday. Toronto talking crap to Katai all of a sudden. Okay, so here's the Katai. Here's the moment. Katai and Bradley work it out actually after the play. They worked it out. They were talking. The replay shows that it came from a totally accidental bump. Katai just basically turned, and right at the same time as Moore was running up behind him, Katai totally, you could tell, didn't even mean to run into him.
Yeah, absolutely.
They bumped each other, and then all of a sudden, Larea inserted himself into the picture and got right up in Katai's face, was yelling at him. Katai put his forehead to Larea's forehead, and Larea pushed him off with, it wasn't like a headbutt, but their heads were together. They pushed him off. Larea kind of head shoves him away. They get separated, but a semi-scuffle ensues. Josie enters, and all of a sudden it's causing a little bit more yelling. But then after that, Katai, Bradley, they seemed to work it out. And then Katai and Larea were booked. But then afterwards, they also seemed to work it out and were talking and explaining it to each other. So it seems like cooler heads eventually did prevail.
Absolutely. I just thought the whole thing was unnecessary. I don't know why Katai got a yellow card. I mean, you look at replay footage. Josie very clearly pushes Katai.
Mm-hmm.
If he really wanted to, Katai could have easily just fallen over and drawn some sort of foul or some sort of BS penalty or something like that. I don't know, but in my opinion, I think the whole thing was like very unnecessary. As you guys were saying, there was no need for extra pushing and shoving to happen. It was an accident. These things happen all the time in the league. In fact, there's more things that have happened that are a lot worse than this when it comes to a little pushing and shoving match. And that did get aggressive. That did got very aggressive. It wasn't just people fighting. It was, it got into it. You look at Dax trying to separate the whole thing, showing his leadership, his experience with the national team, talking to his buddy Josie. Unfortunately, he was the only guy on the team who actually went to go help out Katai, which I thought was a little strange. But
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. But I was. This is me just being speculation, but I always thought Katai seemed to be just an outcast, just with his body language.
Yeah, I see. I agree with that. He just doesn't. He just seems like a very quiet guy. Yeah, I agree.
So play gets on. Should be a lot of extra time. Toronto get it deep. Larry gets another shot off. Here's where I postulated. I wonder if Basti gets bored back in defense, and sometimes that causes him to just rush out and make a little crazy play.
I know I would if I were him.
Yeah, so would I. So Toronto's been controlling, and then all of a sudden it's the 45th minute, and Gujar cuts off a pass and just lays off a beauty of a deep ball, a long ball, and then CJ with an incredible first touch settles it, chips the goalkeeper. It's 1-1 going into halftime.
That's been a theme. Isn't this like the third goal that the Fire scored this year with in the 45th minute?
No, that was their first goal in the first half this season.
Oh, really? Yeah, but I think a few has come. I think a few has come in the 90th minute at least, or I know CJ's done that. I think the first home.
Yeah, game. CJ did that before with the last minute match, right?
It's amazing how well CJ's played this year. You look at his stats last year; he was not good at all. I think he has more goals this year so far than his whole time in Philadelphia, which is pretty funny. It's just the curse that the Fire has in the Union, I guess. David Accam going there. Once he only had 3 goals since he signed for them. You look at a guy like CJ comes here, instant success right away. Being the player that we knew CJ Sapong was back when he was a stud. In his previous MLS
or Kansas City.
Yeah.
And isn't he playing out of position? What is Pono playing him? He's
a
winger in the 4-2-3-1, right?
He's not even playing in his prime position.
They're not playing anyone in their position now. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, we made it to halftime, boys. Goodness. Pono gets interviewed, does not sound happy with the execution, but likes the fight shown. Personally, he seemed to be struggling to find the right words, and I did not really get a boost of confidence from hearing what he said. But that was just me. I'm not a player in the locker room.
Yeah, that was interesting. Pono, if we want to get into Pono, one of the things that people like to bring up is, if he leaves, who do you bring in? One of the ideas that I was throwing around with some guys was someone suggested bringing Klopas to be an interim manager if they get rid of him. They saw what he did with Montreal. I love Frank Klopas personally. I think he's a great guy. I don't trust him with this team long term. He'd be a great interim manager, kind of get lighting a fire under these guys' butts, and
interim for sure.
Really getting everyone going, and then really taking time to determine who would be the best person to bring in long term. But at the end of the day, if you get rid of Pono, who do you bring in? Pono's a great option. A lot of teams would be very thrilled to have a guy like Pono.
Very true. He's a great recruiter.
Yep, with his experience, he got the team over to Madrid this summer. I don't know if it was really talked about a lot, but one of the things I talked with Brand about was how cool it was to go to some of these big facilities in Spain, Real Madrid, the Spanish national team facility, being able to play against a team like Atletico in a friendly, that's some things a lot of MLS teams don't have the ability to do.
Well, they played against Bayern last year, and that was thanks to Basti coming. But also, that was also thanks to Paunovic recruiting Basti.
Yeah.
Right?
In my opinion, Paunovic's European connection is awesome. It's definitely necessary, and it's very beneficial to have on this team right now. But, I think they should keep him around. I like Paunovic. I really do. As long as the players in the locker room are happy, don't have anything to complain about, I say keep him around. But
are the players happy?
I think so. I don't really, when I talk to them, I really don't. I try not to, get too in depth with it, just because it's their job. Who wants to talk about work when you're not at work?
Exactly.
But I haven't heard anything too bad about Paunovic. But in my opinion, I think I think his experiences, and again, his European connections, as you've talked about, are something that the Fire are very much benefiting from. In my opinion, he still needs to learn how to play players in the right position. But you can only take so much with what you have, and we'll see what happens these next couple of weeks here. Right now things are certainly pointing up in the right direction. Other than the Seattle game, but
The question though is tactically. He's gotten points out of the last few games, but still that dreadful game. I wrote right here in our halftime assessment, this is one of the harder games to watch for the Fire this season. The Fire just look like they're drowning. 75% possession given up, some stuff on the counter through Katai and Georgie. They showed some things, but doesn't seem like they're going to get a win from this match is what I wrote here at halftime. It's tied at the moment, but for how long? Not sure what you guys thought.
That first half was really tough. That goal at the end of it kind of made things seem a little bit better. Just kind of forget all the bad soccer that was played in that first half. But in my opinion, if that goal doesn't come, I think we're having a completely different conversation today.
Jiggly says we don't need possession. We just needed to counter better.
We absolutely need possession. You can't.
Yeah, you can't. No, you
go ahead. Once the soccer team wants to have 30% possession the whole game,
you're going to get exhausted. You're just chasing.
Defending
you're
all
just chasing
game.
The whole game. A big sometimes what happens with teams is it's so field orientated, and sometimes when you don't trust your back line, you just get comfortable sitting and you work, you win it, you play long ball, and then you don't get up and numbers don't get up. And that's really what I saw is they just really don't trust that back line. So they work, they get the ball. Hopefully Katai can do something. If not, okay, they're going to keep 4 or 5 numbers back and they're going to try the counter again.
My question is, why was it 75% possession to 25? What were they outclassed?
No, they just sit. They just sit.
Yeah, you can't just sit back and you can't just sit back and hope that you don't let up goals. That's not good. It's not good for any sports team to just sit back and be looking behind your shoulder the whole time.
Imagine being a basketball team and just
any sport.
How do you win the game in basketball if you don't outscore the other team? Yeah, you could defend more, but they have so many more shots than you, or they're just going to outscore you.
You can't rely on hoping that you're not going to give up any goals, right? No sports team can do that. Hockey, you can't do that. Football, you can't, just expect to give, the other team tons of possession and hope that your defense just stops them. You can't, baseball kind of different. You can't, just be like, oh, we'll just score all these runs and, like what the Cubs are doing right now. And, if the bullpen doesn't figure it out, so what? With soccer, what I'll get back to is if you're going to play, if you're going to play counterattack, soccer, that's fine. But, I don't want the Fire to do that. I don't think anyone wants them to do that. I want to see this team really control possession of the game. I want to see them, really establish possession. I want to see them really just form plays and, make sure that we're not just, trying to catch a guy off guard and, get a goal that way. Because that's not going to be beneficial because teams are going to figure that out right away and they're not going to win games.
So what I wrote down too was the high wire act is back. And when you're doing that counterattack, that's not possession style, like you guys are saying.
Well, let me just say something. Pep Pep wants to play offense and defense in the opposition's half,
Mm-hmm.
right? His thought process is, A, when you win the ball, you're just closer to the goal you need to score on, and B, the opposite. When you lose the ball, the opposition has, 60, 70 yards to travel with the ball. And when you just sit in front of your own half and you lose it and they only have 20 yards to move, it's not good. And, going back to what Matt was saying about how, maybe they're relying on the counterattack to score a little bit too much, where have the set pieces been for Pauno's tenure? I mean, corners, dead balls. I mean, it's just been non-existent. And for a team that struggles to score, set pieces are an easy thing to practice. I mean, look at what happened in the World Cup. I forgot what the percentage is, but
Germany.
It was crazy how many goals are scored off corner kicks.
Yeah. The Fire definitely need a true corner kick taker. I think, Jordy, they're trying to have him do that. He really hasn't been great. I don't see why Basti isn't the guy doing this day in and day out.
For sure.
In my opinion, this is definitely something that the Fire definitely need to work on, definitely need to capitalize on. Because when you get these opportunities, they don't come often. And Fire definitely need to take advantage of those.
So, guys, did the Fire, were they outworked yesterday?
I'm
not so sure.
I don't know about outworked.
Outpossessed, yes. Outcoached?
No, I wouldn't say out. I wouldn't say outcoached.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that. I'm trying to think of the right word.
So, what sometimes I tell my girls is sometimes you don't have to work harder; you have to work smarter. And
yes, absolutely.
And go ahead.
Skills, and that's definitely working smarter and working harder are two completely different things. And working smart is really going to make someone successful, and that's really what the Fire needs to do right now. Is just work smarter.
If your defense is your weakest link, it makes all the sense in the world to play a higher line, put a few long balls in, and press the other team's outside backs and goalkeeper and make them travel 80 yards to go score instead of sitting in front of your net. And I know I'm bringing this up again, but we got to get that line up. It just doesn't make any sense just to sit.
Slow Day says they were outcoached. Toronto have a coach playing style. Chicago do not. Chicago is a tournament. Paunovic is a tournament coach.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair criticism of Paunovic when it comes to his managing style. But, in my opinion, I think that Paunovic could really take that sort of tournament experience and turn it into a full-time experience and develop these guys. It is a bit of a different, sort of approach that he has to take. Going from the Serbian national team and really kind of, taking these young kids and being like, hey, play for the pride of the country. I'm sure you can bring up political messages and, proving yourself against some of the big giants of the world. Compared to, coaching guys who are experienced, like a Schweinsteiger, like a Dax McCarty, and, treating these guys like adults and not like kids. I think it's just a very interesting point that needs to be made. Another thing that I think needs to talk about with Paunovic, and this was kind of brought up last year, is him becoming the potential next manager of the Serbian national team. I think there could be a situation where we do lose Paunovic because he does go back to Serbia and coaches the national team.
Yeah. And
you really can't blame him. That's a great job to have. I know from personally speaking, I'd rather coach a national team than a club team. Especially if you don't have to deal with signings or anything like that. You just focus on one team, and that's coaching, coaching, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
You don't have to do any recruiting. All you got to do is just motivate players. You dedicate all of your time into really, just setting up a solid lineup.
It's almost like a NBA coach versus NCAA coach kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, or NFL NCAA. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, boys. We've gotten to halftime here. Let me actually just kind of run through. Let's just run through this second half here. So no, we're getting there. We're just kind of because there's so much to talk about. We kind of want to get to the juicy stuff. Anyway, so right here, first minute in, the biggest save of the week from Ousted on what should have been a sure goal from Altidore. Uh-oh, did we lose you? You're back.
I lost you guys.
You're back. You're back.
All right, good.
I was just saying. So, what was I just saying? Oh, big save, huge save of the season, or save of the week, basically from Osted. Amazing on the sure goal from Altidore. And once again, the crosses are just coming in from Gujar's side. And some people said Gujar had a good game. I'm like, guys, you guys got to go watch that tape. Gujar was the number one weakest link on the Fire yesterday, and that's where all of the Toronto attack was being focused upon.
And I like Jeremiah. He's a good kid. I talked to him at the
not to say he isn't a good kid, definitely.
There's that luncheon thing. He really seems to have a good head on his shoulders. Really seems to, want to be here. He's very grateful. He's not taking anything for granted. And he reminds me a lot of when I talked to Brant when Brant was first coming up. Not being like, oh, cool, I'm a professional athlete at such a young age, but really just taking advantage of this opportunity and making the most of it. Are these guys making millions of dollars right now? No, you're making 50, 60 grand a year.
They're fighting to stay in the league.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these guys, if they can really just kind of keep their attitude and everything together, and just keep continuing to work hard, not dwell on negatives, and learn from your mistakes. I see a guy like Gujar being, definitely a guy for the future for this team.
Definitely. Good for him to get minutes.
Yeah, I would love to see him become a Jonathan Campbell type player.
Oh, that's awesome. Kappelhoff at right back.
No.
Going forward, no.
Kappelhoff has not been good this year. After re-signing him, everyone's very excited. I was excited. I'm sure you guys were too. I don't know a lot of Fire fans that were disappointed about it. He's been quite disappointing this year as a player, and it really stinks to see, especially because of the potential that we've seen in him, in years past.
Oh, well, do you think that last year was really what maybe set him on this path, set him back? Because he's good last year too, but maybe it was thanks to that not having a true partner.
Potentially, maybe the leagues figured him out too. Kind of like what happened with Nikolic. I feel like the league's kind of figured him out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Despite his goal yesterday.
Let's get into Nico.
Real quick, I got who scored ratings up. Kappelhoff was second to last with a 6.1. Dax was last with a 6.
Really?
Yep.
I don't think Dax played that bad.
I think Dax played better than Gujar, and Gujar had like a good rating, but that's because he had an assist. These ratings are not. I don't know. They're not the greatest.
Is that Audi index thing?
No, this is from who scored, but still, Dax.
All right, let me move on.
Should be getting more than one tackle a game.
All right,
we'll say that.
That's true. But here, 60-minute, Georgie gets fouled by Pozuelo. No, it's 57-minute, gets fouled by Pozuelo. Pozuelo goes to yellow. A couple minutes later, Georgie finds Katai wide. Katai drives into the net. CJ flies into the middle, draws some attention, and Katai manages to find the overlapping Nico, who taps it in to finally get off the schneid for the first mark of the season for him. And the Fire are now leading 2-1, and the momentum just shifted on a dime.
That was a very Nikolic goal that he scored.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I was talking about this again on Friday. I did a little live stream on Facebook on the Fire discussion group about how Nico's goals are just these little dribblers that just kind of find their way to the back of the net.
Garbage goals.
And he celebrates them like he scored a 40-yard rocket from like something that you see on like a YouTube compilation of great goals.
Garbage goals.
That's my biggest problem with Nikolic, is how kind of dramatic he can be.
Mm-hmm.
Also the fact that I remember when he first was on the Fire, how he could never stay on side. That was like one of his big things.
That's a problem for a lot of good strikers.
The best strikers in the world tend to be the most.
Aguero led Premier League.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I mean, like,
it's nice to see Nico get on board. But I think you're right in that a lot of the league has figured it out. It's not garbage goals. Garbage goals are what I mean by garbage goals is you're in the right place at the right time. I just call them garbage goals.
And you're there for the rebound.
Yeah, you're there for
his goal last week was a garbage goal.
Anyways. What was I just saying? Crap.
You're talking about Nikolic, but hold on. Let me get into this. So, Nikolic might not be here next year. I thought I may have read. Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. I think, it's definitely something that's been talked about quite a bit. Is if Nikolic will be here next year, just amongst fans. I definitely think that his time in the Fire has kind of run its course, especially with how well CJ has been playing, and the fact that we really don't need two guys up front like that. you know, you can use those money and those resources for someone who's a little bit better. So apparently at the halftime, real quick.
No worries.
Halftime of the Cincy versus SKC game, ESPN is doing, I think Twelman, who's announcing it's going to do a discussion about the fire. We should probably turn that on.
Yeah, dude, get that going. Get that going for sure.
But yeah, we'll. Just gonna say that we need. You know what? Yeah, we do need to talk about that. I'm sure.
Let's fly through the last bit of the game. Let's fly. Okay, Gujar wasn't doing too well. Blah blah blah. Gaitan comes on. Didn't really do much. Needed another 30 minutes. What do you guys think about Gaitan?
I like him. I think he's a good player for us. It was a great signing. All right, they're halftime now.
Yeah, monitor this because we definitely want to.
Yeah, end this game, James.
Okay, yeah. So 78. Bronico comes in for Dax. Gaitan largely invisible. Kelly postulates that there's a goal left in this game. Didn't turn out to be true. Marino makes his first appearance, comes out for Katai. Game over. Wow, they somehow managed to get a point out of this. I don't know how.
I thought the Fire were going to win that game with that little chip that they had.
Oh, I didn't talk about the Toronto goal. I'm sorry. I did not talk about the Toronto goal. It just felt like it was coming. Toronto just possessing so deep. Josie wastes Gujar on the wing and then finds Osorio. Nobody covering him on the back post. Wide open goal. 2-2 tie game. There it is.
Yeah. My prediction on Friday was that the Fire were going to draw this game 2-2. I wish I was wrong. I was right. But a point on the road is nothing to hang your head on, in my opinion, especially against a very good team like Toronto, where the Fire have struggled in years past. I'm not too upset. It's not ideal.
Welcome to the Audi Halftime Report.
All right, yeah, turn this up.
That was really loud. It is what it is. Take the point. Point on the road. Draw on the road. Win at home. You're gonna be a playoff team.
Sorry to cut you off there, Matt. Slow Days is just lighting up the comment section, and I want to read some of these because I actually tend to agree with him. And he's talking about Nico here. Strikers get offsides. We already talked about that. Yes, I agree. I know people complain about that. Like we just talked about Aguero, usually the best strikers in the world. But with Gaitan coming in, I completely agree that I think Nico will benefit with Gaitan coming in because with a guy like Katai, I think Katai has hurt Nico just because he's getting fed the ball a lot and he's taking away some of his opportunities. And it's not like Katai's a true distributor. So he's really – I just don't think Katai and Nico are compatible. With Gaitan, that might, give Nico some of the opportunities that he needs.
If Taylor starts going, let us know, and you can turn it up.
They're just on the new Minnesota Stadium. It's beautiful.
Minnesota Stadium's beautiful. Their baseball stadium is beautiful. Let's briefly talk about how Soldier Field, they could have done a lot more. And I think you commented on that.
I'm not a big fan of Soldier Field at all. Talking about the Bears, not necessarily a great stadium. I was in Dallas last week, and I got to say, if you're going to Cowboys Stadium, and I've been to 2 Atlanta United games, man, those 2 stadiums are unbelievable compared to what we have. Throw soccer out the window in terms of just facilities for the city. To be able to hold Final Fours and concerts and Super Bowls and just so many, events that, we can't do here in Chicago. They really missed the ball on rebuilding Soldier Field.
Yes.
And it's quite disappointing that, we have this, this stadium in a great location, but you can't host anything at it because it's too small. You look at the World Cup. They can barely do any stuff for the World Cup.
They rejected the World Cup. Rom didn't want the World Cup because it was security issues, and FIFA wouldn't pay for security also.
Sure.
You're exactly right though about Soldier Field. It's just like, come on, like we deserve something better than that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
the turf sucks there too. It's terrible.
Bad, and it's the Soldier Field, the pillars. I mean, it's just like the historical luster is gone. It's just
they could have easily rebuilt it to make it look like the original, but with more wind-resistant sort of seating because the old one was not great for that.
No.
But you know, one of the things I drew on when it comes to, you know, tarping off the stadium, because they are going to have to put tarps up.
Yes.
You know, you look at a Seattle, even Red Bull had to put some up yesterday, and that was not a good look.
They only had 5,000 fans or something, similar to the Fires.
Yeah, you know what? One thing that isn't being talked about right now is the struggling attendance of a lot of like MLS teams.
Dallas.
I think a lot of leagues in general, MLB, NHL. I mean, all these people are struggling. I think more so in attendance.
Yeah. A lot of sports right now, sports right now isn't what it used to be in like the 90s and the 80s, even the early 2000s. You know, people just aren't going to watch live sports that much anymore. You know, there's so many other things for people to do now.
So many Netflixes. There's other live sports that you're aware of. You know, I mean, just like, and the amount that you're hit with this too, that you're advertised. Come to the Cubs game. Come to the Wolves game. Come to the Bulls game. Come to the Bears game. Come to the Fire game. Come to the White Sox game. How many more games can you go to?
This summer, the Fire have to compete with two Major League Baseball teams. One that is, you know, one of the most always constantly leads the MLB in attendance. The other is an up-and-coming team in the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
They're competing with minor league baseball teams, you know, independent teams, Windy City Thunderbolts. You got the Schaumburg team,
the Hot Dogs.
You know, there's so much going on in the city right now, and in the suburbs where we're at, that, you know, people, you know, the Fire have to put those you know, things into perspective. You know, I think what makes Cincinnati so successful and maybe Atlanta so successful is the Atlanta fans. They wanted a winner, and they are. I think a lot of them are pissed that the Braves moved to Cobb County.
It sounds like the Fire Talk's going on ESPN. If you want to switch it over, by the way.
I'm still on a commercial break, but
okay.
Definitely I'll be turning it up here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll listen. We'll kind of like just listen to your feed when that happens.
Yeah, sure.
But also, you were talking about Texas Live. I saw that tweet of yours, and then I looked it up.
So Sporting has one of these things too. It's like this company. They kind of make these like corporate-y sort of looking bars, but they're cool, and it's like a mall, but for bars and restaurants.
It looked like it had a stage and with a band and like billions of TVs. It looked so cool.
If they had one of those by Soldier Field, I think it'd make a lot of money.
They had one by Bridgeview.
Yeah, that'd be great too. If we stay there. All right, let's see. Let's see what's going on here.
Darren Mattix and the percussion section.
They're not talking about it yet. But
you know, let me jump in here.
Here they come.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the issues of the week. Murmurings, rumours.
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
That Chicago are up for a rebrand, Chicago Fire, and also a move possibly to Soldier Field. You've been in newshound mode. What have you done up?
Yeah, I've done up a little bit. Obviously, Paul Tenorio at The Athletic does a good job of describing the relationship between Bridgeview, Chicago Fire, and Major League Soccer. The deal is not finalized 100%, and it's so pen is the paper. That deal, I think the celebration needs to come down. But secondly, and more importantly, there's this internal discussion of whether or not Soldier Field is not only the Band-Aid, it's the fix. And that's where I completely 100% disagree. And this conversation of, well, look at what Sporting Kansas City did. The Illids don't get enough credit because they didn't just slap a new name on it and put it in a new stadium. The infrastructure in Kansas City from top to bottom is exponentially better than what Chicago has done. So while it's huge, massive, if they get out of Bridgeview, because that would have been the 2036. John, it's got to be the bridge. It cannot be the solution, because the infrastructure in Chicago, that all needs to change, and it needs to be kind of like DC United. And what I mean by that is if Soldier Field, if you come out and say, Chicago, you know what, Soldier Field's there for 3 to 5 years, we're building a new stadium, then it's going to work. But you've got to reintroduce yourself to the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
You know how you do that? Sign Chicharito tomorrow.
Yes, that's what we said.
Yeah.
You kidding me?
Go bring Chicharito. Go get Chicharito.
To the city of Chicago, then it's a bridge of hope and not a solution of hope. But it cannot be a solution. They need their own stadium. Okay, so they're going from Bridgeview to a bridge, and then to who knows where. Now, because of the day we don't care actually since.
All right.
Sell Nikolic today. Get Chicharito tomorrow. Right now. We said this 2 years ago. Get it done.
Oh man,
it's not rocket science.
I mean, Blanco had such an impact with the Fire that attendance was crazy. They're putting in temporary seating for God's sake. Imagine that now. If you sign Chicharito tomorrow, the Fire will sell out every game.
Oh,
without a doubt in my mind. He's a name that the suburban crowd knows who likes soccer. You get the Mexican, community coming out to games. He's just an instant impact name.
By the way, thank you, Taylor, for having that. Dude, that's awesome that we could time that perfectly and have talk about this. That's awesome. All right, because we could just break this down.
I appreciate that. I'm going to put the cup game back on. Yeah. But,
well, I think what he said with reintroducing, again, let's go back. Instead of talking about Chicago, let's just talk about United States. Soccer is not popular in the United States. And then you go into Chicago, like we were talking about before that little segment. It's just convoluted with all these major sports teams that are in the limelight. And then
we have a lot to compete with. And it's not just with soccer, but it's with the Emeki teams. It's with EPL teams. It's with the Bulls. It's with the Blackhawks. It's with the Cubs and the White Sox.
He said Liga
the thing about soccer is people are like, oh, the Blackhawks rebrand, and they didn't have to rebrand, and they brought in their attendance. The Blackhawks had this previous image that people had, before they were bad, and before
and they go back to the 1920s or 30s too. So yeah. In a league that goes back almost 100 years too. Sorry to interrupt.
The EPL and Liga MX thing is a big deal too, like you said, because there's no Chicago people aren't watching, the Russian league. I mean, it just doesn't happen.
It is certainly interesting. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I don't want the Fire to rebrand. A new logo, fine. I'm honestly okay with that. I love this logo, but when it comes to marketing, when it comes to branding, if they want something fresh, they're going to have to do something like that.
Let's break into it. I mean, seriously, right now, I wrote this down. Nobody cares about the Fire except us, the people who are listening to the show, and a very, very small contingent of fans. You want proof? Who talks about them? Who talks about the Fire? Nobody. Nobody. Fred Hubner on the radio. That is all. That is it. And he only talks about him on the weekends when he's on the radio. Nobody else talks about the Fire. Nowhere else, not on TV, not on ESPN, not anywhere. Who goes to the games? A subset of 5,000 diehards in a city of 2.7 million and a market subset of 10 million. Nearly 10 million people in the greater city area of Chicago area wide, but 5,000 diehards on it. There's more people going to watch competitive chess matches on the lakeshore than going to Fire games.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about this club.
Yeah,
that's why maybe a rebrand is necessary.
Slow says branding is not the issue here. Marketing is. Exactly.
So is it rebrand? Is it branding? Is it marketing? But here's the other thing. The Blackhawks, all they had to do was put out a winner and point out, hey, we just got the top 2 studs in the draft. And all of a sudden they're winning. And all of a sudden they're winning a cup. And all of a sudden everybody's going to the Blackhawks game. And then they're the number 1 attendance unit in the NHL for the past 6 to 7 years.
That's a cool thing to do. They have to make going to Fire games to become a cool thing.
And it's not. You go to a Bulls game, and even though they blow, it's still the coolest thing in the world because you hear the tune, you hear the Michael Jordan, and you get chills. I watch it on TV, and I still get chills. But I also have a big connection to Michael Jordan. I'm sure you do, too, because we grew up at that age.
Yeah.
And so I honestly get chills when I hear the opening for the United Center or for the Bulls games. I'm like, oh, my God.
The Bulls start playing, and you get sad.
So marketing or is it branding? What do you guys think? I think that a total new brand, it gets way more people behind the Chicago Fire. And the Fire organization does not care about the 5,000 diehards. They would gladly trade those 5,000 diehards for 20,000 nameless, half-caring fans.
And honestly, I don't blame them. It stinks, but I don't blame them at all for that. It's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. And to keep the club afloat and to keep the Fire afloat, this might have to happen.
Jigga's got a great question, I think, too, though. If the rest of the city doesn't know who the Fire is, then why should we change our name? We could still reintroduce ourselves.
No, the SEO argument for Chicago Fire absolutely matters too, Jiggly. It absolutely matters.
So, yeah, they did not come up in the age of the internet, and now they're below Chicago Fire TV. I also saw this positive. Does Section 8 have a similar issue? Because when you think about Section 8, who thinks about Chicago Fire fandom, or are you thinking about low-income housing?
Section 8 has some other issues that need to be addressed, and that's, coming from the top down. It's, the fact that, a lot of, I don't want to bash Section 8 because they do a lot of good things.
They do. They're one of the best things about the Chicago Fire fandom.
The community is great, but when it comes to doing new things and kind of letting new things happen, I don't know. Unfortunately, I think that they kind of need to look in the mirror with a lot of the ways that they treat like new fans and just get more unique with it. One group that really they worry too much about things that don't matter than they should.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a group like Sector, they've only gotten bigger because it's more fun. They make it a fun section, fun environment to be in. They care about one thing, and that's the fire.
They're not worried about politics.
All right.
Yeah, but the other thing is, there's certain
a lot of social issues are important.
Sorry.
Puppy.
Yeah. In my opinion, if they just focus on one thing, and that's the fire. And again, while all these things are really good to do, if they just focus on just supporting the fire and supporting the team on the field, they're going to be fine. So that's how you fix it.
Yeah, I also think. I think it's awesome that they do some of the stuff that they do, and if they didn't do it, who would? Right?
Yeah.
So there's also some, but there has to be some sort of balance. It sounds like everybody's kind of saying. Blah 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 blah. All right, so rebrand. They're moving us potentially to Soldier Field. I think
what? Selfishly, it's nice having it at Bridgeview because it's 25 minutes away for us.
I like it at Bridgeview. I think that Bridgeview.
You guys on the suburbs?
Yeah, we are.
We're in the burbs.
Chicago, Southwest, Orlandish.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Naperville. So
yeah, okay.
Selfishly, being in the city, I am all for this because, I can literally get on the 146 bus and get directly to Soldier Field, which might make me a little selfish in that sense. But, when your target market is going to be in the city and getting these millennials that are in the city, they're going to have to, they need to move to the city. You absolutely need to. To be successful as a sports franchise in Chicago, you've got to be in the city. You've got to have public transportation access. It's very, very important.
Going back to the rebranding argument, I know some people don't want to, but I guess that also starts conversation and also can start, just conversation in the city. Hey, you hear the Chicago Fire rebranding, and so maybe that's just the idea there. But if you imagine they do move to the city, they do get a Chicharito, and they do rebrand. That is just really starting a cascade of events that potentially could, up the attendance.
I got a question for you. Was the money spent on Bastian Schweinsteiger worth it?
Yeah.
I think it gets us here. I think without getting Schweinsteiger, you kind of don't get here so quickly.
Yeah, I was very happy with it. I love Basti. I love the fact that he's here. I think he does a lot of good for the team. He's an experienced player who's going to teach these guys lessons for the future.
Yeah.
And, he's someone who they can rely on, not to be the best player in the world, but a leader. And that's really what I'm looking for in a player. And they got him. They absolutely got him. So.
We got some comments here. Only way changing branding helps is if they feel that they have destroyed the image to the point that they cannot recover. And you look at the fan base. We certainly have a jaded, mad fan base. That's for sure. People, more to the comment, people would have to know who the Fire are and have truly, and they have truly an awful rep throughout the city.
They know the Fire, but they don't have a very positive view of the branding of the Fire, if that makes sense.
No, well, and also a view of ownership, and also let's get into some of what Taylor was talking about that we have not talked about. The infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure that Kansas City has, that a club like New York Red Bull have. And the example he gave was DC United, who had to shift into this. And then we saw, what did we see at the MLS draft? We saw that DC United say, punt just every single draft pick for money, for nothing, and just said later, and because we invest in our team, we invest in our youth team, we invest in time, and that's where investment is. And where do we see that in Chicago for the Fire?
It just seems like a very minor league team. And until the Fire can become a major league team, they're not gonna have the attendance that other teams have. Just from another standpoint, when I go to other cities for Fire games, even Cincinnati for the Open Cup game, people knew what was going on. Like, oh, you guys are in town for the game. Mm-hmm. Atlanta, there's Atlanta United flags everywhere, more than Braves. I was down there during the Falcons season, and while it was a playoff game, people are more excited about the Atlanta United game than they are about the NFL game.
But, dude, it sounds like the Fire are more well known outside of the city of Chicago than they are inside.
Potentially, yeah, absolutely.
More people are paying attention to, or at least know about the Fire in their game, that they're having a game this weekend, than inside of the city of Chicago, and that's a problem.
My hope is Mansueto is potentially a big solution.
Mansueto's serious.
Yes.
I think he's like, all right, this is stupid. Like, I see what all these other teams are doing, making money off of MLS and soccer, and that's why I think he wants to rebrand. I think this move to Soldier Field is eventually going to lead the way for our own stadium in the city. Mm-hmm. This Lincoln Yards thing didn't work out, but there's still room in. You're not going to be downtown, like that's just unrealistic. But there's room in the South Loop. There's room on the West Side. You could easily build a stadium with public transportation access. You could build bars around there. You could build up the bars that are there now.
Are you saying that Bridgeview's not the option in that regard? Don't put the bars around Bridgeview. Don't make the public transportation to Bridgeview. What about this? What if you move to Soldier Field for 5 years while you get to invest 2-3 years construction into Bridgeview? Make it freaking nice.
That doesn't make any sense.
Is that just stupid?
Why would you just move out? That doesn't make any sense.
I guess you're right.
I think they turned Bridgeview Stadium into. I don't know what they're going to turn into. Maybe a USL stadium. You could knock out that upper deck section, tarp off some of the other sections. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe turn them into offices. But I think they turn into a USL stadium. But they need something out there. There's some talk about it just being strictly concerts. They already have a concert venue in Tinley Park.
Yeah.
That's 20 minutes away. That's very nice and works great.
It's a way better setup there.
It's huge.
And it's a way better setup in Tinley where you can go sit on that hill
and
the lawn. I don't know. It's just, yeah.
Maybe turn into an XFL stadium. I don't know. But they got to do something with that facility there. The people of Bridgeview paid a lot of money for it. But I want to get the heck out of Bridgeview. Mm-hmm. I hate going there. I hate how it takes up half my Saturday. I want to be in the city. People want to be in the city. It stinks for the suburban crowd. I've been there.
Yeah, for us going to like Cubs games. I mean,
it's still fine. It's still fine. Going to Cubs games fun. Going to a Blackhawks game, it's fun.
It feels worth it.
You could deal with that. I mean, we really can. It's fine.
It's maybe a little bit harder to justify for the Fire because the experience.
It's just.
I feel like it's more. The Fire experience is really what we make it. Like going and hang out with our buddies and going and having a beer, and like that's really where most of it comes from. When I go to a Hawks game or to a Bulls game, I have that already, and then plus like the addition, the glitz and glam of a spectacle, which I just don't get that at a Fire game.
Yeah, and when it comes to it needs to become that full experience, right?
Right.
Go to the bleachers at Wrigley, going to a Hawks game. It's like, oh, that's a cool thing you're doing. I don't want to make going to a Fire game be like a chore to go watch this. Go out to Bridgeview. I don't want to do that. I don't like that feeling. And a lot of fans don't like that feeling. But I just think that they really just need to, get to the city, make it a cool social setting, put some beer gardens in. Make it a cool thing to do.
Get Chicago Live there. That Texas Live thing. Get Chicago Live.
One of those things, man. It'd be great.
It would be so cool. I'm going to say, everybody in the comments, everybody in the live chat audience, we're kind of getting close to shutting down here. So fire off your last final thoughts and your final questions at us.
What do you guys think of the? Obviously, it's still a rumor, but what do you think about the potential name? What was it? Chicago City FC, correct?
I think that name sucks.
Yeah, me too.
It was so dull.
Yeah,
really bad.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
but look at New York City FC.
There's too many FCs in the league already. It's just like, oh,
that's pretty dull.
Yeah, there's tons of them, and it's just very generic.
So yeah, so what would be good? Do you stick with Chicago Fire? Do you go with some sort of new Chicago name?
The Lakers.
I think what the Crew did and just get a small refresh of the brand. You don't need to do something crazy, but getting a stadium downtown, refreshing the Fire brand.
Yeah.
Calling it Fire FC. I don't know. I don't know what they could do, but
the Chicago Lakers.
We've got a question here. So what can we do to officially protest the potential name change? I don't think there's anything you could do, because I just don't think they care about the subset of 5,000 fans who really are holding on to the Fire name.
Chicago broad shoulders.
They don't. Yeah. They do not care about. They don't care.
They don't. I agree.
Yeah, you guys know it. They just don't care.
They don't care. It's clear. If they cared, we would have seen it before. The optics wouldn't have been this bad. They got to get the infrastructure in place. I tried my first game in 2015, bought an all-day pass on Metro, and was told it would work for Pace. Pace wouldn't accept it, blah, 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 blah. Had to take a cab to the game. It's cluster. It was a cluster truck.
Yeah.
So getting to the game's difficult. We do know that. First game in 2015. My first game was like in 98 or something. Wow. And that's the other thing that I got to say about rebranding. You are 2 decades, 21 years old. The Fire just got old enough to buy a beer.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's not nothing that's not nothing. That is definitely some significant history there. But now let's look at that history. They won the first few years. They were good. And then we had to deal with mediocrity.
It's been a free fall.
We had to deal with mediocrity a lot after that.
Yeah. Growing up in Naperville, I went to a lot of games at Old Cardinal Stadium when they played there, and that's really how I fell in love with the team. But, those were completely different teams. It was a different league at the time, too, man.
Yeah.
Like, MLS is not the same league it was in 98. It's not the same league it was 10 years ago.
No, not even 5 years ago.
No, you're absolutely right.
Where the Zlatans weren't here, we got a Zlatan. We have a top 15 striker in the world.
As someone from the city of Chicago, and you see Cincinnati come in, and they're packing the stadium, it just doesn't make me feel good.
These other markets that are doing well, there's not a lot to do in Cincinnati.
That's the other thing.
The nasty natty.
There's not a lot of other things to do in Cincinnati. Same thing in a place like Rockford, where they'll go to the Rockford Ice Hogs games. But somehow, for some reason, Chicago Fire failed to capture this suburban crowd.
Big youth. This is a top 5 youth soccer state in the country.
It is. Soccer's popular here.
It's huge, and they're blowing it.
It's huge. Kids play soccer here, and they're good at it.
International market that could be tapped into as well. And I really think that a move to the city would really bring out a lot more people.
Yeah.
It's easy for people to take public transportation to games. People from the suburbs can still drive in. Talk to Field. Make parking cheap. Make them fan-friendly prices.
I think it starts with the soccer Taj Mahal. You have instead of the soccer Taj Mahal of the Midwest over in Kansas City, let them have it. Where is the Illinois development?
Well,
the U.S. Soccer is headquartered in Chicago. Where is the Mecca? We need that development where you could go see Schweinsteiger practicing with Dax McCarty, and as a kid, and you're like, whoa, and you walk out there, and all of a sudden you get a little inspired.
Well, I'm a high school teacher, and plenty of kids follow soccer. But who do they follow? Barcelona, Madrid, Man U, City. That is where their focus is. And so that's why when you talk about a soccer Taj Mahal or a place, like Atlanta, like their stadium, you need that because other people are just going to watch beat the BPL,
the people who do have
Bundesliga, to watch Liga MX. It's just
and then just stick to watching the national team, and then that's it. That's the only thing that they watch here.
Exactly.
I have a cousin. He's like 12 years old. He's a very good soccer player, very good, and he's a Dortmund fan because of Pulisic. And they're lived down in San Antonio, so they didn't really have MLS on there, but. They do watch FC Dallas. They do watch that team play, they have
San Antonio FC in the USL, I believe.
They do have the USL team down there. They do a great job connecting with the community down there.
By the way, they have fan-friendly prices.
Yeah,
they and Atlanta are two of the soccer clubs that have family-friendly prices.
David Beckham.
$4. I've ever paid $4. I paid more money for beers at bars in Chicago than I did at a professional sporting event.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And awesome. And it feels good. Awesome. And it makes going to games feel worthwhile. That's the other thing. I think that so much gouging has happened. Let's go talking back to our prior conversation of fading attendance. I think there's just so much gouging that people just don't feel like going anymore. It's like, screw it. I'll stay at home and I'll have 3 or 4 beers at home for not even the price of going, parking, time spent, and beer.
Parking is so stupid. I mean, I take living by Wrigley Field for granted because I walked every game.
Yeah.
But you look at parking signs are up like $40 to park. Come on.
Are you serious?
Stupid money.
Come on. That's like average. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cheap. I see. Yeah, I know what you do. I'm saying, are you kidding me? But I know exactly because I've had to deal with it. It's just that it's market insanity, and then it just becomes exclusive to go to these games. It's like, it becomes a super big event, and then also you're only going to 1 a year instead of 3 or 4.
MLS cannot afford to have expensive tickets. They cannot afford to have expensive parking and food.
Yes.
They need to make it an affordable thing for people to go to attract a younger crowd and to attract families. High class people and rich people are not going to MLS games. They're going to sit courtside at Bulls games. They're going to sit behind home plate at Cup games.
Yes.
They're going to Bear games.
Yes.
Your crowd, your target market should not be those people. Yes, they are going to spend money, but if you want to have people in seats, if you want to get quantity and you want to become a name around the city that, that rich crowd, that high crowd is essentially going to want to start going to, then you have to make your fan-friendly prices. Keep the ticket prices low. The party have my biggest one. I will never complain about ticket prices with the Fire, because I paid $250 a year for season tickets. Okay?
Yeah, it's not bad. That's not bad.
That is dirt cheap for season tickets when you really think about it. When you go say, I'm going to go spend $250 for 4 seats at the Blackhawks.
Yeah. I mean, you go to other cities, you tell people, other MLS fans find out how cheap our tickets are, no way. I'm like, yeah. And then you have people complaining about, the season ticket holder gifts and stuff aren't cool enough. The box isn't cool enough. I saw that in the past.
The experience is not cool enough. I can care less about that. Yeah.
Our season ticket holder gift is cheap tickets.
Yes.
The fact that we can afford to go to games.
I saw this as a point from Vlachis, who's the guy who leaked this out, by the way. He was saying, oh snap, what was my point? Shike, I forgot it.
I want to jump in on your comment about. I think you said it was your cousin is a Dortmund fan from Pulisic. And, that's why I was a Man United fan, because of David Beckham. Obviously, he's not American.
Jonathan Spector.
He's an Englishman. But, again, bringing a Chicharito here would pack the seats. So
Chicharito here would be unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Carlos Vela would have been nice. I mean, it's just...
Would Iniesta have done it?
No. I still think Chicharito brings more people out than Iniesta does.
I think so too.
You don't think a Barcelona or Real Madrid star would do it? Sergio Ramos?
It takes a Mexican guy. It takes an American guy. People want to watch players that are like that.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, going to see Boston once or twice is cool, but, for a lot of people to say they can go see Chicharito play week in and week out, that's something that, you really should have a blank checkbook for that.
I remember Vlachis. I'm sorry. Go.
Mansueto needs to go sign him. I think that would make the Fire popular. They wouldn't even need to move. They wouldn't have an attendance problem. Jersey, when Blanco was here, everyone had a Blanco jersey. They're making fake Blanco jerseys. Once that happens, man, I'm telling you right now, The Fire will be a very, very popular team. Very popular team. If they can pull off the future.
Well, we asked Sam Stexel, who writes for MLS, about that a few weeks ago when we had him on our podcast. He said, "Don't expect that to ever happen." He'd probably go to LAFC. Chicago. I mean, nobody. The Chicago Fire infrastructure is just not in a place where Chicharito wants to come here.
Yeah, I know, but they need to just money talks.
Money talks. That's very true.
What American could you bring here that would pack the seats? I'm struggling to think of one besides a Pulisic.
I don't think anyone right now. No. I don't think
Fabian Johnson
really has like that older guy that they can really say like, "Oh, this is our guy for the future."
I can't think of one. I can't even think of one.
Bobby Wood.
No, I can't even think of
Fabian. That's what I said.
DeAndre Yedlin. No, he would go back to Seattle. I can't think of one. I honestly can't think of one.
Ethan Horvath.
No, not even close.
But the thing I was thinking about that Vlachis was saying is that the Fire missed a good opportunity to give away ESPN Plus last season with season tickets as a good gesture of goodwill, and then just give the first season away free, and then you start paying for it, and then
I don't know if they could do that.
I wonder. I mean, dude, they could do anything they want with that. You don't think? Give away 5,000 free subscriptions and make them pay the next year if they want to continue?
Why would ESPN agree to that?
Well, the Fire fans would. No, I'm just saying the organization.
ESPN would be losing money. It doesn't make sense in their
ESPN Plus.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Love it.
ESPN's
if you're a soccer fan, you don't have ESPN Plus. What do you do?
What do you totally? What do you The Athletic?
I mean, what do we get? Every MLS game, you get every Dutch league game. You get the English Championship. We can watch the English Championship easier than people in England.
That's crazy. And Serie
A, random baseball games, random NHL games. It's just it's all on there. It's great.
And the ESPN 30 for 30s.
I'm a big fan of you. I love ESPN Plus.
It is the best value in sports.
I don't like how bars you can't get it at a bar. That's a big problem. It's a very big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Over this last summer when we first got it, I was managing the Atlantic Bar a couple of nights, bartending there, kind of running the ship. And it's tough when you have to stream a game on TV at that bar. We're not the only bar that would have that issue.
Yeah. And not to mention,
it's a cord cutter too. It's nice to have.
And also, it makes you could replay games.
Yep.
Like, I didn't watch the game live yesterday. I watched it about 45 minutes after it started just because I was doing stuff. But the game's going on live, but I could just start it where I had to be and then just catch up.
Absolutely.
That's definitely really cool, too.
So I really think, we're all in agreement that someone like a Chicharito moving to Chicago, making it more of a spectacle to compete with, other markets and get that, people enjoying soccer. I mean, it can happen, and it should happen. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I kind of think that a rebrand is necessary. I'm looking at it not from what I want. I'm looking at it what's best for Chicago soccer. And probably the best for Chicago soccer is just to burn it down and restart it, a la Chicago Fire. Symbolically.
I just want to have fun going to the games.
Yeah,
I mean, people are like, "Oh, I want to be." I don't know. I really think that we need to be popular. Yes, winning trophies is important, but it's that old cliche. It's like, would you rather find $5 on the ground if your WNBA team win a game? And the fact of the matter is that a lot of people in Chicago would rather find $5 on the ground than see the Fire win an MLS Cup.
Wow. Yeah. I think that this is another thing that makes me think rebrand is Slode is saying that rebrand could do nothing. Think about that. What if the rebrand just does nothing?
But it could if you couple it with other big moves. It could.
That's what Taylor was saying. You have to get the infrastructure in place. Moving to Bridgeview is not a Band-Aid. You have to be doing all these other things, and that will make. I agree that the rebrand could potentially be totally a failure, and just like you create a new team and it just fizzles out even worse than the Fire did, who had 20 years of history behind them.
Yeah, I mean it could not work.
It could not work. All right, we're getting close to
first, and then see if you need a rebrand.
Yes. Any final thoughts here, Moot, as we kind of shut it down?
I mean, I'm excited for the game on Friday night. I don't know how I'm going to get there because I have work until 5 downtown.
Snap.
Which again, stinks because, that is going to affect the attendance of the game because, people are going to be getting off work.
Yeah.
You play in the city, people work downtown. It's easy to just say, hey, let's go meet downtown for the game.
Let's dip out an hour early and go to the game on Friday.
We'll see.
No, that's what I'm saying. That would be easier to say. It'd be easier to justify.
Instead of going out to Bridgeview, you just easily go to Soldier Field, take a bus, take a train, whatever, take a cab, take an Uber. I mean, I'm excited for the game Friday. I don't know if you guys do a podcast before the game, or you guys may do one after?
We'll probably do one after.
Okay. Friday, I'll be able to go.
What are you guys' predictions for Friday, real quick?
So they're playing Vancouver, correct?
Yeah.
After this last result,
3-1,
but no Frankowski struggles.
3-1 win.
I could see a 2-1 win, 3-1. I can see. You got to get a win here. You got to turn home into a fortress.
Yeah. Let me see. Vancouver just played LA. Let me see how they did.
Someone said Hassler's playing for Sporting.
They just lost to the Galaxy 2-0. All right. Well, Vancouver hasn't won a game all year.
Okay, we should win them. We should beat them.
Hopefully we win. I say Fire wins 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a pretty performance again, but I see a 2-1 victory happening. I'm excited. Hopefully the weather's decent for Friday. But let me just take a look here.
I'll read some of these comments out. Margaret says care more about winning trophies than being popular, but the money bags, the people who hold the purses don't. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. That's great. Hazard's playing for SKC today, starting. By the way. So that was a cast off. A mistake.
Tony Chani.
That wasn't a Tony Chani because that was necessary. This was a mistake where Belko thinks Nelson Rodriguez thinks he could juggle international slots.
Yeah.
And pays the price.
I think I'll get rolling there.
I mean, I'm looking at when it talks to get into Toyota Park too, the Fire don't really do a good job of communicating how to get there. The Cubs have an ad right here. Here are 4 ways you can get to Wrigley Field: free parking and bus shuttle service, Pace buses. You can park the bike parking. They have CTA. There's just so many ways that they offer fans an ability to get to the stadium that everyone knows where it is. Everyone's been going there their whole lives, but it's like, hey, here's a reminder. Here's the many ways that you can get to Wrigley Field.
Right.
And Fire don't do anything like that. It's like, take the public pitch, and that's it.
The infrastructure.
It's
just not there.
Gone. Yeah.
It's not there, and it never will be there in Bridgeview, unfortunately.
There's the nub of the gist. It will never be there in Bridgeview because it should have been there already. And so at this point, Fire are on their way out. They're like, all right, we left the door open here 10 years. 10 years. How much more? So you know what? Door's shutting. We're leaving. We're heading back to. We're going to head back to Soldier Field. We'll figure it out from there. Hopefully, it's not a quick fix. Hopefully, it is part of a larger plan to fix everything wrong with the Fire. To get the money into the structure. To get the money into scouting. To get the money into a facility. To get Mansueto's money pumping and to turn Chicago soccer into what it should be. It doesn't make sense to me. When I'm like a fan, I'm like, how is Toronto one of the biggest clubs in MLS? I'm talking about years and years and years ago.
Toronto's a very international city, just like us.
I agree, but my thought is as being a Chicago fan at that time, 10, 15 years ago, I'm like, we got the Cubs, we're Chicago, we're the 3rd biggest city in the world, but we act like we're in Memphis. We don't even act like we're in Memphis. We act like we're in Rockford. It doesn't make sense.
Bridgeview might as well be Rockford.
And they have been doing that for over 15, 20 years. Or almost 15 years, because 20 years is how long the club is.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's where we're at. Final thoughts, Jeff?
No, I just I've been busy coaching, so I'm just excited to get out to the stadium and just watch a game.
We'll be at the game Friday. Yeah. It'll be fun. Dude, we got to meet and have a beer, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna be in 137. I don't know what time I'm getting there, but we'll definitely connect on Friday. Should be a good time. I'm excited. I think the Fire are gonna win another game.
They're not out of it.
But you know what? Win at home, draw on the road.
There you go. There's the recipe.
There's the recipe.
Thank you guys for listening today. I'm sorry for the visual issues. Hopefully we can figure out how to get that working again. But Matt, aka Moot, thank you for coming on. It's been fun.
Hopefully we can have you on again, man.
Thank you. I'd love to come back again. Glad we got to talk about all this, and go Fire.
Go Fire. Fired up footballers. Fired down. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks for everybody for joining. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more Spitting Fire. Hit that bell icon most specifically to get notified of our live streams. We're also available for iTunes on iTunes Podcast and on Stitcher for download if you guys want to download us after the fact, because I know we always run long. Anyway, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining us. Later. Oh, crud. We don't know how to turn this off. We'll see. All right.
Stop broadcast.
All right. Fire down, everybody. Later, ladies and gentlemen.